For those who haven't yet read the book, can you help them understand, define what extreme ownership means?
Yeah, so extreme ownership is the attitude, it's the mindset that you're not going to blame anyone else or anything else when something goes wrong. You're actually going to take ownership of whatever that problem is, and you're going to get that problem fixed. And I know it sounds relatively simple, but it's actually pretty hard for people to do. Well, one of the hardest things about taking ownership when things go wrong is you have an ego and you don't want to admit that something is your fault. And what you'd rather do as a human being is just blame other people or blame the circumstances or blame the market or blame anything else.
Yeah.
And when all you do is sit around and blame other people and other things, then guess what? That problem doesn't go away. It just usually gets worse. And I'm not talking about having no ego. You got to think that you're going to be the champion. You got to believe that you can make it happen. But you have to counter that with some level of humility where you say, you know what, I'm not the best in the world. The person that I'm going to be fighting is going to be awesome, and I've got to be at my best games. If people lack humility, then they say, oh, I don't need to train hard because I'll be able to beat this guy anyways. And then guess what? They get beat. Well, I'll tell you right now, most people that end up in a position where they're greater than average, they're not sitting around saying, oh, I'm the greatest in the world. Even somebody that comes across as having a massive ego, like Conor McGregor, if you watch how Conor McGregor actually trains,
yeah,
he's training like he wants to be the best. He knows he's got weaknesses in his game, and he steps up to cover those weaknesses.
Yeah, there's a difference between selling fights and your lifestyle.
So there's definitely a difference between fear and respect. And I wasn't afraid of the enemy, but I respected the enemy, and I realized that they could do some things that could surprise us and catch us off guard, and that's something you have to deal with. If you don't respect the enemy, which I guess, if you're not afraid of the enemy at all, if you just think you can dominate the enemy, well, then you start cutting corners, you don't train as hard, you don't prepare as much. When you do that, you're going to lose. Businesses too, businesses that, because we work with businesses all the time, and as the business grows and they start to feel like, oh, we're going to crush the competition can't touch us. And then the next thing you know, there's someone that's younger, some company that's smaller, and they're younger and they're hungrier, and they're working their tails off.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting on the top of the hill, you don't think you need to work anymore. And the next thing you know, you're getting eaten. Leadership is leadership, regardless of where you are, whether you're in the military working with an elite group or whether you're in the civilian sector. It's leadership principles stay the same.
Friendly fire incident. And as a commander in charge, you did something that a lot of people wouldn't. You came forward and took full responsibility for the situation, which to me was very striking. Why'd you do that, Jocko?
Well, it was a tough thing. It was a tough thing to come to. It was a tough thought in my head. And as I talk about in the book, as I was trying to figure, this horrible situation took place. There was all kinds of people to blame, and there was plenty of mistakes that were made. And as I'm sitting there trying to figure out who I'm going to blame and who I'm going to tell my boss, is this guy's fault, I couldn't figure out who I should be blaming for this. And there's a reason why I couldn't figure out who to blame, because as I sat there and grilled over it in my mind, I realized that there was one person and one person only to blame, and that person was me. I was the commander. I'm all in charge of the mission. And if something isn't done right, that's my fault and it's my responsibility. And this is what I'm going to do to fix it. So a lot of people, once they read the book, they say, well, if I take ownership of something, then it just disappears. And that's not true either. If you say, yeah, that was my fault, and then everyone goes, oh, okay, great, it was his fault, now we can move on. No, actually, that doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
You have to actually take ownership of the problem. Then you have to take ownership of figuring out what the solution is. Then you have to take ownership of implementing the solution so that the problem doesn't occur again. So it's not as easy as taking extreme ownership, but the first step is definitely a challenging one. And there's one piece of it where in a leader's mind, they think, oh, well, if I take the blame for this, everyone's going to look down on me and they're going to lose respect for me.
Right.
But the opposite is actually true. When a leader says, hey, look, here's what I did wrong, these are the mistakes I made, and this is what I'm going to do to fix it, people actually gain respect for you because they realize that you're not going to shirk your responsibilities. I think while we're seeing the one side, the people that are saying, it's everyone else's fault, which is basically the people that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't get where I wanted to be in life because of these following reasons, but it wasn't my fault. And there's a number of us in the world that are saying, actually, well, it is your fault. And when someone says to themselves, okay, did I not get into college because they didn't like me because I was X, Y, or Z? Or did I not get in college because I didn't work hard enough and get good enough grades, and that's why I didn't get in?
Right.
Or if I didn't get in the military, did I not get in the military because they don't like me or they don't like where I come from? Or did I not get in the military because I'm morbidly obese and I smoke pot every day? Like, that's going to be a problem. And Jimmy Page, before he was in Led Zeppelin doing what he does with a guitar, which, as you know, is completely insane, he was a studio musician that was playing the notes that were dictated to him, really complex, and he did that for years.
Yeah.
And so if you want to have the freedom to rock out Led Zeppelin style, then you need to have the discipline to practice for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to get to that level. And it's the same thing with it's a in a creative world, it's the same. In a regular business structure, it's the same. In a team, it's the same. And in your individual life, it's the same. The discipline that you have in all those categories will give you freedom in the end. There's pressure on both sides, and that's why being a leader is a hard thing to do. There's a heavy burden of command in both situations.